Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 111 of Build Your Stash and Craft. Today we are going to make our own handmade tissue paper. Like the different types of tissue paper, like the Tim Holtz tissue paper and those types of things that you can buy. But you can so easily make them for yourself, make them ahead of time, and then you have them for when you want to use them. And so the first thing that we're going to need is we're going to need our tissue paper. And what I did with my tissue paper was I just took a full sheet and let me get this one out of here. And I just kind of hand pressed it. Now, if yours has too many wrinkles and that bothers you, you can press it with an iron if you have a craft iron. If you don't have a craft iron, you're going to want to press it with a piece of parchment paper between that and your tissue paper, just in case there's something on here. I'm not sure what the shiny side of the tissue paper is, so you don't want to get something on your iron. But what I did was I just took my tissue paper and laid it out on top of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock, and I just laid it out, and then I just took my scissors and I just cut around it. These sheets were 20 by 20, so I could go ahead and I could get four 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper out of that. And then also, being that it's 20 by 20, I just folded it in half, and cut it into four 10 by 10 sheets of paper. You can leave them whole, but you don't really need to have, maybe you do need to have that much, but it's easier to fill in a smaller sheet, and also they're easier to deal with. And then you can have lots of different ones instead of having a huge sheet all the same. So, and then what I do is I stamp on the non-shiny side if you have one, and put something underneath of it. I just took 2 pieces of copy paper here and set them on my surface, because your stamps will go through, and so you just want to catch that on something else, and then you can use that as backdrop paper, background paper. And you can do them any way that you'd like to. You can do them, I like the black and whites. The black and whites kind of remind me of the old Tim Holtz. Now, you could also spray some coffee or tea on this. If you're using your StazOn, you can do that before or after, or you can put some color on it. You can do it however you'd like. But if you're using your Hampton Arts, I think that those will run with water. So you would want to put any background color on before you stamped, because otherwise, if you spray tea on there afterwards to dye your tissue paper, they may run. So, and I'm just going to take one of my line stamps and just start stamping in different areas. And I'm going to just kind of stamp until it lightens up. Usually about 3 stamps I can get. Let me move this up a little bit before it gets a little too light. And then you're just going to choose like what you want that you think goes together. I turn my stamp as I go so that they're not all exactly the same. And then I usually like to use a few patterns just to give it some interest, but you can make them all just one pattern. Let's switch. Let's go to, I'm going to stamp this one off a couple of times. And that's just another piece of paper I can use for something else. And so then I'm going to use this kind of a starburst. Whoa. I'm going to stamp this off once to see what it looks like. Well, I have a book under here and not over there, so it's not stamping right, but we're just going to go for it. There we go. That looks all right. And then again, just turn it as you go. Now, I like the black and white because you can use it for lots of different things. And I like the monochromatic, which is basically you're just doing everything with the monochromatic. You're just doing it all in one color. Maybe different stamps, but still just one color. And I like to stamp off the edge, just so that it, really fills in the piece of paper. So no matter what part you're using, you've got some of your design there. And this one is pretty much about done. Do a few more here at the bottom. And of course we can see through it, we can see all the ink that's gone through. So I'm kind of lifting it up a little bit to see where I don't have a stamp, because, you know, those are showing through and I'm not seeing my definite white spots where I might want to fill it in. And I think that I like that. So now we have a black and white piece that we can use. And then we can do like a monochromatic, or we can do a very colorful one. I'm going to close up my StazOn so it doesn't get dried out here. And then maybe let's do one in these two blues. We'll start with this one. And let's do it with a couple of geometric shapes. Let's do, oh, I know. I'm going to use this one, which is my circles, and I'm going to use this one, which is my lines, so that I can do a crosshatch with that. And let's do a 10 by 10 sheet. So I'm just going to get this inked up well. And I'm going to stamp it around, and then I'm going to go back through and go the other way so that I have, so that I have a crosshatch. Now, that just made a mess, but that's okay. Won't hurt anything. Use that more in a mixed media piece. Off the edge of my book here, so I'm going to pull it forward. Wow. I'm guessing that that one just really likes to be upside down. Okay, now I'm going to turn my paper because it's easier for me to do it this way, and I'm just going to I don't have to get ink every time. Just make each one of these into like a plaid. Just because I like the way that that looks. Yeah, at least it didn't turn upside down that time. Kind of roll your stamp off of it and it won't stick. And there we go, we've got those all done. So that's what that looks like with the going the one way and then going the other. Looks almost a little bit burlappy. If you did it in brown, you could do it kind of all over and your paper would look like burlap. That would be really quite cool. Now let's find the other blue one that I dumped on the ground, and we'll do it with this one. And then what you can do, if you don't like all of the white in the background, is you can just do a little bit of a background stamp the way that I've shown you with the journaling on a budget, and we'll do that here in just a minute. Just to kind of break up that white a little bit. I know it's hard to see because you can see behind it. Makes it a little bit distracting, but that's the whole point of having the tissue paper, is that it's see-through. And then you can put it on a project and you can see right through it. I'm kind of lifting it up so I can see what I'm doing. See where I still need to go. Don't forget to go off the edges. And I think we've got just about everything we need here. Maybe one more right there. And there. Okay, so now we've got just our blues. Well, we'll leave this off. And then I'm just going to take a little piece of paper and stamp this off really quick. And just a little piece of tissue paper, just kind of crumple it all up so you've got different little levels there, and then I'm just going to dunk it on my ink pad, pick up some of that ink, and then just hit it on the white spots. You don't have to be particular at all. It's just to help fill up the background. And I'm going to do it with the turquoise also, just to get a little color everywhere. Whoops, dropped it. And then this doesn't hold the ink as well as your stamps do. So a lot of times it really only gives you like just a couple of marks. I'm going to flip this paper over just to make it a little better. The stays on really went through, and now we're going to try and find the lid to the blue. Well, I'll have to find that in a minute. And we're going to do the turquoise. And I'm going to just use the same one. And just kind of look for white spots. It can be very random, but the whole point is we're trying to kind of fill in the white spots. So make sure you kind of look and get the places that you want to get. And this pad is so juicy, I am getting a lot of stamps out of this one without having to re-ink my little background stamp. And the thing I love about these background stamps is every time you make one, they're always different. They'll look the same as you're using it here, unless you move it around. But the next time that you make one, it will be its own individual look. And so there we go. I'm going to call that good. And I'll show you what that looks like. So now we've got this to use in backgrounds, and you can always buy tissue paper with patterns on it, but the thing is you wind up with a whole bunch of tissue paper all with the same pattern. And after a while, you're tired of using it. So this way, when you buy one of the white ones, you get 35 sheets. When you buy the ones with the pattern, you only get about 8 or 10, and then you have all the same pattern. So this is a nice way to get a lot of different looks. Now I did this one here just with our sprays, and I didn't spray it. I just took a sponge brush. See here, let me put this one aside. And I just took a sponge brush and just put a little bit. Let's do one in blue and purple. Now this is our spray ink, so they have the mica in the bottom. So make sure that you swirl round and round until you get that mica off, so you don't shake the mica up into your sprayer. But all I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this off, and I'm just going to dump a little bit of this color right onto my brush and just put it a few different places on my paper. And then when I'm done, because this has the mica powder in it, oops, it's going to be a nice shiny background. And again, you can use them for anything, but you can use this just, and then when it's done, you can also stamp on it. And if you stamp on it with the mica powder, after you've stamped and you have to go get more ink, wipe your stamp off on a damp paper towel before you put your stamp back in the ink, because the mica powder in this will stick to your stamp, and then when you stamp it back into the ink, that mica powder will get in your ink, and you don't want to contaminate your ink. So just make sure if you're going to stamp on this after it's dry, just make sure that you wipe your stamp off each time before you put it back in the ink. And we are going to do the tissue paper right now, and we will do the sheets that we got. We're going to do those next week, because I realized that it was going to be too long of a video to try and do it all in one. I don't know why I was really, other than, you know, some of the things are the same. I'm not sure why I was thinking to do them both in one. But that gives you an extra week to get the sheets or some kind of a white fabric if you haven't been able to get it yet. But I didn't want to have to rush through both of them and not be able to give you some of the tips and stuff that I had, like the mica powder. You really don't want to get the mica powder in your ink pads. And so I'm just going to go around the blue and fill in the purple. And then when we're done with this, I will show it to you up close before I pick it up off the paper, because it wrinkles a little bit as you're going, and it leaves a really cool pattern on whatever you have underneath. And you could spray this on if you want to. You don't have to brush it on. I just figured it was going to use less ink. It was going to make less of a mess. I didn't have to pull out my spray box. That's probably the real reason. I was just kind of being lazy. And then we'll make something with a couple of these that I've already made, and they're dry. But there we go. Now I have a nice colored sheet of the tissue paper. Okay, so I'm going to kind of lift this up, and can you see the wrinkles in there? See if it does the same with this. Yeah. Look at that background. And you can actually see not just the colors went through, but those wrinkles left white marks. So it's very kind of marbled. I love the way that that looks. The last one I did on a piece of tissue paper, and it looked really good too. So now I'm just going to set this aside somewhere to dry, and we will have this beautiful blue and purple to go on some kind of a project. And I'm going to remove this because it's damp. That's nice and dry. I'll have to figure out where I'm going to put it. There, that'll work. Okay, let's see. And so then I'll show you the ones I did earlier as I was getting my samples ready. This is the one with the mica powder on it. And I did this one with the red, orange, and yellow. And then this is the one that we just did. And here is a brown one that I did with two of my different line stamps. Oh, no, same as the black one that I did, except that one's brown. And this one also, I made a background stamp. And so like here, these are the background stamp that I did. And so as you can see, here's the background stamp that we just did. And here's the background stamp that I did earlier. See how they really are kind of cool, but they're always different because you never wad up your paper exactly the same way. And then here's one that I did with leaves as one of my samples, and that's on a 10 by 10. And then I did one with really bright, pretty colors and just some different geometric shapes. So that is how you make it, and you know the different ways you can make it. And if you do them in the black and white, well, if you do them in any color, you can always go in and you can paint them with watercolors, or even use your paintbrush and touch your ink pad and then just paint it with your ink if you don't have any watercolors. And then to use them, like I said, you can use them for anything. But I thought I would show you, we made this back around Christmas time, and I've always thought this is too plain. And so when I was pulling stuff out, I saw this and I thought, I'm going to put one of these feathers on here with some water glue. Grab a paintbrush, and I'm just going to rip it out. I just have to decide which one I want. I don't know if I want a really dark one or if I want kind of, I'm going to choose this light one. And I think I'm actually going to use those two little ones there also. And the nice thing about tissue paper is it's see-through, and if you rip it, then you don't see the edges as much as if you were to cut it. So you want to rip it when you're putting it on top of a project, and the closer you rip it to the whatever it is you're going to put on your project, the more it just really like disappears. And so that's really kind of the cool thing about it. I'll rip this one close on one side and not on the other. And then we'll kind of be able to see the difference. So I think I'm going to put that right there. I'll just grab my water glue. Always remember to shake your water glue before you open it up. And again, the water glue is 1 part water to 2 parts glue. I'm going to put that right in here. I'm just going to put this right on top of it. And when you're doing tissue paper, if you go from the center towards the outside, you get way less wrinkles and air bubbles. Just going to get a little bit of that extra glue off of there. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to do the whole thing because this is a little bit matte and the glue is going to be a little bit shiny. And so to clean that up, I'm just going to spread it out, and that will make the whole thing shiny. And there we go. Now, you probably can't see it that well because there's not that big of a difference, but see, here is the edge of our tissue paper right here. Okay, so it's not bad, but the other one, because we ripped it close, is very not, you really don't see it. And this you do see a little bit. And so if you rip it closer, it disappears very well. And look at how well that is on there. It looks like it's stamped. If you've got something that's too rough to stamp on, that's when this works really well. You stamp on a piece of tissue paper, rip it out, and then use your water glue to put it on there, and it will go on there very nicely versus trying to stamp something where it's really rough and you only get parts of the stamp to touch. So, and it also works really good for sentiments. It works great if you're trying to, you want to put it on there, but it's like, I really don't want to ruin this, so I don't want to stamp and have my stamp not work, and then I've ruined it. Stamp it on tissue paper and then glue it on this way, and you've got it on there without having to worry. And I had those couple little extra leaves, and I just really kind of wanted to put those on there too, since I've got the water glue and everything out, just so that one's not so all alone. I'm going to need to put some more water glue down here. I want the water glue to be wet as I put this on, because I want it to grab, remember, from the center to the outside. And then I'm going to put this little one right there. And then over in this spot over here, I could put a little sentiment. And also, if your water glue is wet, you can move it a little bit. It might wrinkle, but it will move a little. And so there we go. I like the way that that looks, and I think that looks a whole lot better than when we started. And then also, I mean, just a really easy way to get a tag or a journaling card. This would make a nice journaling card. And let's see here. We want to just put color on it, but it has a lot of color on it already. How about, I think, get that all out of the way. I think I like the bright colors of this with the bright colors on the back. So I'm going to just cut a little bit of this. I'm not going to cut it perfect so that I have to get it in exactly the right spot. That will drive you crazy. Make it a little bit big, and then after it dries, you can always trim it down. So I am just going to get some glue on here, and I'm only going to do about half. And then I'm going to just kind of set this down on here. And I've got a really big wrinkle right here that I would really prefer not to have. So I'm going to lift that up and push that wrinkle out. Now another nice thing to do, we'll do it with the other half, is to wrinkle it on purpose. So this one's pretty smooth. Okay, now see, I am putting water on top of my colors, and I have to be very careful because I'm smearing them. Because we've got water in our water glue, so we have to be careful about that and move fast with the Hampton inks. Okay, now we're going to just kind of like let this one be a little bit wrinkly. And there we go. So that's what it looks like, a little bit smoother. And there it is with some texture, which also looks really cool. So now I could cut this in half where I've got a smooth half and a wrinkly half and use it for ATC cards, or when it's all done, trim it off, which either way we're going to trim it off, and use it as a journaling card in one of our books. So those are just some of the ways that you can use it. And I'm going to clean this up really quickly, and I'll be back to show you what we did and go over next week. Okay, I was just doing a quick add-in. As I was picking everything up, I got to thinking what would happen if I put the water glue on the back side of the tissue paper. Even though the ink has seeped through, it's not as strong, and it did still smear a little bit, but it did not smear as bad as this one did. And so here it looks like it smeared, but that's actually what was underneath of it. That one didn't really smear. I should have put this on a blank white sheet of paper so we could have seen it better, but I thought it would make a cool background by putting it on top of our junk paper, and just wanted to show you that. So if you always stamp on the matte side of your paper, and then you know if you glue on the shiny side of your paper, it will still smear a little bit, but it won't smear nearly as bad. So I wanted to just put that quick insert in there, and I'll be right back. Okay, I am back, and here is our dried journaling card, and again with a little bit of texture on this side. Maybe that's where you can see it, and then on this side a lot smoother. And again, like I said, we can cut it in half and make a couple ATCs, but I also wanted to show you how the inks, the Hampton inks, they're water-based, so they're going to smear if you put anything water on them. And I was thinking they might, but I wasn't sure, and then never even thought about the water glue. So I just wanted to show you that. It still gives it a really cool, it's a background anyway, so it gives it a really cool look. But if you don't want it to smear, then you're going to want to use your permanent inks to do that. And here is our little holder thing that we made. And, oh, it's Velcroed on there. So there's that. And, you know, see that blends in really nicely. So, you know, those are the different types of things you can do with your, there's all sorts of things you can do with your tissue paper. And then here are just some of the patterns that we have now. And, you know, the thing is that we have these nice smaller pieces to deal with, and we have all of these different looks. Lots of, you know, lots of color, sparkle. We've even got our black and whites. And we even have this extra paper to use from when we dyed them. So I really do hope that you liked this video. I really have fun making these, and I love using tissue paper. So I thought that this would be a good way, you know, for you to make your own and make different things out of it. So for next week, what we're going to need is we are going to need the white sheets that I had you pick up for this week. So if you don't have those, we've allotted $3 for next week's product, which is a white sheet or two that we're going to use to do some more things. Thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.